And welcome to Game Changer Weekly. My name is John Wolf, and I'd like to thank everyone for stopping in tonight. Co-host Bran is out on vacation. We do hope he has a great time. He deserves the break. Tonight, we have a very special guest with us, GCW senior referee Adam Gault. Adam, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well, John. Doing great. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I wanted to give a small intro and let everybody know what we're going to be focusing on tonight. So, I'd like to share with everyone what we're doing on this podcast. Referees are commonly overlooked as in ring performers. Outside of counting shoulders, they're also in ring directors. They're first aid medical care in the event of an emergency or injury, and they're the direct line of communication between wrestler and gorilla so that everyone can be on the same page during the show. There are thousands of referees in independent wrestling worldwide, and Adam is sitting at the top of the mountain. He's the senior referee for the largest independent wrestling company in the world at GCW. Our hope is to shine light on the position of referee, how it works, and the value Adam brings to that position. This is a rare interview for fans who really want to understand this aspect of the business better. We're fortunate to have him with us tonight, and so we're going to dig deep into the brain of a man whose job is seldom understood. He's a very intelligent, humble, and hard worker who appears to be born for this business, as you'll soon see. He's one of the nicest guys I know at GCW. I could not have a higher opinion of him. So listeners and fans, we're going to get into it with GCW senior referee Adam Gault. So, is there anything you want to say before I put you through that wood chipper?
No, John, I really appreciate the intro. It was a very nice intro, and it means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the fans understood where we're going with this tonight and just how important it is to have someone from your profession in here talking with us tonight. So let's get started at the beginning. You were an Attitude Era baby from the WWF days. Can you tell us how a young third grade Adam became officially hooked on wrestling?
Sure. So, if someone has watched some of the other interviews I've done, this may have come up, but essentially the last time that WrestleMania was in Philadelphia, before this past year, was in 1999, and I was already interested in wrestling as a young kid, idolizing my two older cousins that I spent a lot of time with, so I was into it, but I didn't understand it, and a classmate of mine was lucky enough to attend WrestleMania 15, came in that Monday morning, talked all about it. And that's when it kind of clicked that, like, oh, this is on every week and this is a thing. And I watched Monday Night Raw that night. I said, after hearing Brian McGuigan, it's still funny, I remember his name. I wonder what he's up to these days. Talking about being there. And I was like, I got to watch tonight. And I watched that night. And that's when it was like, all right, there's no turning back. So that was, it was all going forward from there. And then I remember a few months after that, I think I was like walking like Gangrel or something in the mall with my cousin. He's like, "You're obsessed, like more than we ever were." I'm like, "Yep, it is. It has bit me." So,
well, those WrestleManias, that Monday afterwards is always a wild show because you have that international crowd still in town. So you get that soccer style crowd that comes to the WWE shows. And that always just, the crowd makes the show. You know how that goes.
Yep, I do. I don't know how much traveling was happening back then. I'm sure there was still to a level. I don't think it's to the level it is now. But I think that, the Attitude, that was the thick of the Attitude Era. And like really when 99, 2000, like 99 was such a strong year for the WWF. And I think the characters of just like, Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, the corporate ministry, all of that was like, Mankind, Kane. I just remember, I was infatuated, and then it was like, so.
Dude, I'm right there with you. I fell in love so hard. I would have people come over to my house, and we were lucky enough to have a decent stereo with like the 80s speakers. You know what I mean? So we'd crank it up a little bit. My friends' moms and dads all knew each other, so they were cool. We're at John's house. You know what I mean? They're not going to give us a problem. We're up till 11:15, 11:20. We're leaving my house that night. Everybody's dead ass tired the next day at school. So definitely good freaking memories. I do want to mention before we move on, we were rated by Effie's Twitch stream. So hello to everybody out there. We
Oh,
have
awesome.
Queeros and Monk, Big Chump, Deso's in here, Reed Cooper. Yeah, Professor. He says, I like how John looks like a bashful kid introducing his presentation to the class. I get it. I love you too, bud. So yeah, Adam, did you watch both WWF and WCW during that time?
I did, but I was more I don't say loyal was the word. I was just at, like, again, 99. I was more into WWF at the time and watching that more consistently, but I still would flip back and forth a little bit and try to catch what WCW was doing as well. And I think before I really like got hooked, like that moment, like I said, like every time I saw Sting, I just thought Crow Sting, I just thought he was the coolest. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I got Batman posters behind me. I mean, it's clear I liked like the dark brooding, like it was fascinating to me as a kid. So a lot of those type of characters, and like Goldberg, I mean, who didn't love Goldberg? So like, you know, so at that time, I remember I would rent a lot of times. I feel like WCW VHSs were around more Blockbuster to rent, and I would rent those. Then I would watch WWF live more often, and then ultimately, you know, I stuck more with WWF through that time. But I did watch that, and I watched a little bit of ECW because Channel 48 locally here in Philadelphia had ECW, and obviously, you know, being born in the city, so caught some tail end of that, and then, but yeah, it was kind of bounced around, but WWE definitely dominated it.
Wow. Yeah, I love that era. I do miss that era. And when you go back and watch just one show, it's like Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, just back to back to back to back. And yeah, I had a blast through the mid and late 90s with the whole you had WWE or WWF, WCW, and then we were lucky somehow we would get some ECW. I felt like for us it was on one of the Fox Sports channels. And I could be wrong, but you're in Philly and you would know a little bit more about that than I would. Who were your favorite wrestlers?
So The Rock was definitely up there as a kid. Like he in that whole run, he was probably numero uno. Kane, like I said, like the Kane, Sting, anybody who had like a mask fascinated me, and I thought that was cool. I met Matt Hardy, I think in '03, right when he became version 1, and then, you know, when you meet a wrestler as a kid, they kind of stick with you a little bit more. So, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really liked the version 1 character. So then I was big with Matt, and then the Hurricane was big because again, loving superheroes and then wrestling, it was like a perfect combination. So those are some big ones. Um, you know, I think I appreciate Stone Cold now more as an adult, and you look
Yeah.
back and just like realize why he was so popular and was just the man. And then when I started to get more into the independents, CM Punk and Brian Danielson were both really big ones. Paul London was a big one in like my teenage years. Like those guys were, and they were kind of like smaller stature guys, more technical, high flying. Punk obviously with his promo skills. A lot of guys like once I got into Ring of Honor in '03, I was like the majority of their roster at that time, you know, were somebody was like my favorite for a while there. But those are definitely some of the key ones. Trying to think if I'm missing anybody. I mean, yeah, those are probably the big marquee ones at the time.
I was wondering what independent companies, outside of Ring of Honor that you may have been watching, especially being in that wonderful Jersey, Philadelphia, New York kind of area.
Yeah, well, so I did catch CZW in its early days because they kind of took, or maybe I think they might have been broadcasting at the same time at the late days of ECW, or ECW was probably on Better TV at that point actually. So I would catch some CZW on television, but kind of like we were mentioned earlier, like my parents weren't necessarily into wrestling, that they never really were, and then my cousins, like I mentioned them earlier, but I don't think they were in a position to take me. So like, so that I think was more of like I didn't have any like way of knowing, and then I was like involved in other stuff. So I really didn't take in a lot of independent wrestling other than Ring of Honor. And then throughout my teen, like from '03 to 06, I was pretty avid and going to so many of those shows and traveling where I could. And then I made friends that would come that could take me. They were kind of like my older sisters and brothers.
Yeah.
And my mom was very relieved because then it meant she didn't have to keep going. Or my dad. And then, yeah, so they ended up going with them, and that would create a lot of good memories. And that was more, there would be some other random shows thrown in there, like like Jersey All Pro. And then I started to get more into some tapes and stuff, and like seeing stuff from Jersey All Pro or 3PW or, there's always a lot going on. There still is a lot going on in this area, which is great. So we took in a lot of different things, but Ring of Honor was really kind of was the infatuation.
Well, those were a lot of I'm trying to think of the word for it. It was like PWG. Sometimes you'd get a stellar match years before it maybe should have happened, and you're like, oh my God, like the Young Bucks in, their more formative years going up against, a young this or that. And yeah, I really love that a lot. It felt like that time, even with the little bit of internet that was available, I felt like that really pushed independent wrestling forward quite a bit. You have MIRC and some of those old places that you could download from. So,
it made a huge difference.
So being influenced with backyard wrestling, like all of us were in the 90s, we saw videos here and there. We made our own videos. Can you tell us about Warp?
Sure. So Warp was, again, being influenced by the Hardy Boys or Matt specifically. I read their book, and they had Omega, and Omega was like this, long acronym for something. I wanted to do something similar for my backyard fed, which was in my backyard on a trampoline with my group of friends.
Yes.
But don't try this at home. And we did. I was kind of so infatuated with Ring of Honor at the time. Like, I was making it clear that we were like not your hardcore backyard, which is hilarious that I'm now the referee for GCW. But we were like the pure wrestling and backyard wrestling. So I tried to like push that again as a 12 and 13-year-old. But it was Wrestling Arts Revolutionary Performance, which I think I just thought Warp was cool, and I wanted to figure out any way I could make that work. So yeah, it was fun. We had a good time, and we had a lot of I think we were the entertainment for the neighborhood kids, especially that there was then as we got into 14, 15, 16, like the impressionable teen years, before most of my friends got more interested in girls than jumping around on a trampoline,
Right.
and party and everything else that teenagers get into. They would come down and would come to, and I had a pretty big backyard at the time, and we'd have on a good night, we'd have 30 to 60 kids watching us do this on, and it was, and then after the show, it would just be we were all hanging out, and it was some good memories for sure. So innocent fun for sure, and that trampoline was incredible. Not just wrestling, but the amount of. I always say my dad did his research, and that thing was indestructible.
Hell yeah. Oh, okay. I'm going to ask, what was your entrance song?
Black Dog by Led Zeppelin.
Oh, no kidding. Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah. It's got a nice roll
That's
to it.
Immigrant song.
That's immigrant damn.
Song. Black Dog's a little bit different, but listen to it later. And it's,
you got to sing it to me. Sing it to me. I'm just fucking with you. Let's see here. Let's see. Dezo said, John Wolf said Adam Gault is an S-tier hugger. I can confirm. Thank you, Adam. He and Dan helped wrangle some seats for me in Detroit. Yes, I don't know if you had a chance. One time, Dezo a long time ago was like, look, I have some leg issues. Is there any way that you can is there someone I can talk to? And I tried to help him in the right direction, but I had told a story on you. I've actually told maybe 2 stories on here where I was saying when my mom passed, how important it was that someone didn't need to came up to me. You did. And just, a good hug and had some kind words. And like I said, your world is so busy and you're seeing hundreds every weekend. And it had already been quite a while, like a month or a couple weeks where she had passed. And I really appreciated that. And I think I mentioned, hey, I got a big hug from him, and let me tell you, he's the best hugger. And I forgot who else said it, but they were right. And I realized afterwards. So I wanted to make sure to let you know, man, we've had both of us here at Game Changer Weekly have had nothing but wonderful things to say about you, because it shows, it shines. So
I appreciate it. No, it's well, it's funny. I have been known to be a good hugger all of my life. So always what my dad wanted when he came through the door for after work, and then just kind of played off of there. So yeah, I think hugs are good, and especially when you're trying to express that you're there for a friend or for someone else. So no, it's the rumors are true in that aspect.
I just always think that it means that you mean it.
Yes.
Like Cole Radrick
yeah.
is another great hugger. Yes. I feel like it's because it's from the heart.
Yep. You got to squeeze a little bit.
Just a little bit, Yep. Okay, so you have a background in backyard wrestling, but you started with a background in amateur wrestling in 7th grade because of Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, and then you continued for the next 12 years straight through your university years. But you were also a coach. So how long were you a coach?
I was a coach for 7 years. 7 years, yeah, from 2012, 2013 season to the 2019 season. Yeah. So, and I had talked to someone recently at the gym. I think they could tell I was a former wrestler just because our builds are similar, whatever. And it was an older guy. So he's like, I wrestled in high school. We started chatting. And then I always kind of sometimes forget, especially because I've been a little bit removed these last few years of it's not, that's taken up from 7th grade to when I was 29. So I was involved in the sport in some way. So it's it's had a huge influence on my life for sure.
I keep noticing too, without getting into details, in several aspects, that you seem to be the type to always give back, which is a form of thankfulness. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And so when I graduated from college, I was never the best wrestler. I was very good at practice. I could whoop your ass at practice. I could teach very well at practice. I had practice partners who got better than me, and then we were like, I don't know why you're not, you taught me everything you knew, kind of thing. So I think it was a bit of a mental game for me when I got on the mat for whatever reason. But with that, I think I always loved the sport. I appreciated the sport for what it could teach you and the life lessons. And then I have a lot of love and appreciation for the high school that I attended. So when I was out of school, and looking to figure out first my job and then what I was going to do, but the head coaching job was open, and the gentleman that coached me was really waiting for someone young to come in and take it. And so I dedicated a lot of time and effort to it, and it was really important to me. And arguably I burnt myself out a little bit with it, but I don't regret that, because I think sometimes you if you really want to, do what you need to do and be successful, sometimes it takes that. And I think I left it all out there, and more importantly, the boys did that I coached. And I'm proud of what we were able to build up. And then before I moved on from my high school to a new job, and even though I wasn't coaching any longer, I was still involved with the program. Fortunately, I was able to get someone in there with the same passion, drive, and longevity to be the coach. And that made me feel a lot better knowing I could move on. As silly as that may sound, because it's just a wrestling program at a high school, life will go on. But it felt good to get someone in there that could continue to care for the program. And that still shows today. So, I don't miss coaching as much as I wish I did. Actually, Jordan Oliver and I were chatting about it a lot on our last trip. And it had me missing it a little bit more than I have been the more I was talking about it. I enjoy building a program. That's fun. The recruitment, setting a lineup, and then seeing the student athletes grow and get better, especially a sport like wrestling where, you could not be able to catch, throw, run very fast. But if you're just dedicated, you just keep doing it. I mean, you'll at least be half decent, you'll win a few matches, and that can do a ton for a young man or young woman, because there's a lot of girl programs nowadays too, which is great. That can do a ton for their confidence and building
Yes.
who they are. And then yeah, it sucks to lose, but that's part of life. And then that's humbling, and then you have to deal with that. And there's a lot of lessons, and the sport's done a lot for me. And then sometimes when I think about like the weekends that we endure, like the travel, the not a ton of sleep, uh,
Hmm.
just they can be tough, and then going to work, whatever the next day is that I have to do, or I do my responsibility for. Like, I don't know how you do that. Like, I often think back that I think amateur wrestling is a reason, because I know it's very cliche and corny, the Dan Gable quote that like everything in life is easier once you've wrestled, but it's pretty true, especially if you cut weight and have had to make certain sacrifices. Like, you're never going to have like the worst, like, you know, you those days are tough. And then when like, oh,
The
today can't.
trash bag days. You ever have to do the trash bag and sleeping bag days?
A little bit of that, yeah, like
The
that,
old
yeah,
school.
definitely had some of that, or like cutting 17 pounds in 2 days, and
Oh,
yeah,
what were you
just like
doing? Like exercise and cabbage, or what the hell were you doing for
yeah,
that?
just well, basically at that point when you got to make a cut that quickly,
You're
you're
down to
probably not going to
water.
do it all. It's and then get all the water out of you. So, you know, a really hard practice, and then go run. Run 3, 4. I could usually gauge it where like a mile would be a pound. So
Yeah,
if I was like
yeah.
4, you get to like 3 or 4 pounds over, do what you need to do, and then yeah. So, but yeah, point being, stuff like that. And that sometimes makes the sport look bad. And for anybody who's listening, is like, I would never let my kid do that or whatever. Like, that was in college. I didn't cut weight in high school. I almost wish I did, because if I did it discipline wise, I actually think I could have easily gone down a weight class or two and probably done better. Because it is done for a good reason. It's just the problem is your kids, and if you're not, there's a sense of personal responsibility there where like you need to
Understood.
be,
Yeah.
and like, younger kids should never be cutting weight. Like, you shouldn't cut weight until like, yeah. And again, it shouldn't be these drastic things like I was just talking about. That was on me. I mean, I was, that's on me. And the coaches need to be supportive too, but it's personal responsibility. It's like, don't let that be a deterrent from getting involved in what I think's, a really great sport that can really help people, and learn life lessons, and get in great shape, get in the best shape of your life, and just help them for for the rest of their life. So taking that out of the equation, it's a full recommendation for it.
Discipline.
Yes.
Discipline is what it's all about. And I was told a long time ago by the wrestling coach that it's a very individual team sport. You know what I
Yep.
mean? You're what's the word for it? You're accountable for yourself. So
Yeah.
So with your background in amateur wrestling, you first wanted to be a professional wrestler. Then Brian Johnson, a good friend of yours, was running a training facility inside of a wrestling company called Old Time Wrestling out of Williamstown, New Jersey, with Jim Molyneux, which is a previous ECW referee. So in time, you became a referee, and obviously smart fit given your wrestling and coaching background. So when did it click that, hey, I would make a great referee?
Yeah. So that's all well said, kind of catches things up. When I first reached out to Brian to get involved, and to Jim to get involved and start training in some kind of way, it was like, they're like, well, Brian was like, "What are we, like a wrestler?" I'm like, I think I'm good, especially because I was so involved with the coaching. And like, as it was probably evident the way I was talking about it, I was very much like focused on the coaching, but I still loved pro wrestling, like still my first love. And I wanted to be involved in it somehow, and be able to
Yeah,
help
yeah.
my best friend, and be able to give back in some kind of way, and offer my talents. So I tried, like, I commentated for a little bit. I did some, I don't think I ever did ring announcing, but I did like backstage announcing, did some different things. And then eventually somehow was like, let's just, let's try out refereeing.
Hmm.
And for a while there, I did it all like sporadically. Like, I did it usually when the wrestling season, so it wasn't the winter time, because that's when wrestling season was. So I did it a lot of the times when I could, spring, summer, fall. If it was a night show and I didn't have a tournament, And I just did it when I could, and it was fun, and that's just kind of how I looked at it. And then it was around 2017, 2016, 2017. A lot of the OTW wrestlers, Adam Chandler, Justin Pusser, Brian, Jasmine, and then some of the other trainers that were coming in were traveling more. They were going out and about on the indies, and they were like, Adam, you are easily far and away the best. Like, you need to be other places. You're the best ref that we work with, and you only are here. And so with that, I was like, okay. And again, I was so focused on coaching, but then I was like, oh, I can start fitting in some things here or there. And so I started to, I went up to D2W first with them, which was the Jersey Devils promotion in Wharton, New Jersey, and got to get so many reps. I got a ton of reps at OTW because it was old time wrestling. So the referees, the rules, it was very like traditional. So I got a ton of reps, and a lot of times we'd run every Saturday at 2:00, and then we'd run a night show once a month at 7. And like the afternoon shows would build to the night shows, and simple enough. And our production wasn't good. Our draw wasn't always good. But we were organized, and we knew what was expected of us. And I think that helped a lot of people grow. And Jimmy Lloyd came out of OTW. People don't know that. Steve Sanders. So I actually ref Jimmy and Steve's first official match. I'm sure Jimmy had other matches, but I always think that's a fun fact for GCW fans to know that I ref Jimmy's first match. But yeah, it was organized. It was well put in that kind of way, and a good place to learn and get reps. So I got a ton of reps there. Then went up to D2W, got even more reps, and then just kind of through networking and getting some different opportunities. I think living in Philadelphia is a huge advantage to just getting some other opportunities and then off to where we've been. But to more directly answer your question, it really kind of hit in that time from my peers. They're like, hey, dude, you're good. You should be other places. Let's make it. You should make the effort to be more places. And then, but was I really that good? I don't know. It was better than and then it was funny because right around that time I kind of felt like there was an influx of a lot more better referees on the indies around that time, like 2017 to now. I'd say I think maybe with the rise of social media and the rise of like it being recognized as another avenue to chasing your dream and working in pro wrestling. I think there's a ton of really great referees all across the country and the world that take it seriously, that understand the role well. And I don't know if that was going on before that. And then I think it was kind of right in that boom period. So, yeah, and it's been nice to be a part of that and see the growth of that.
So Jim was your principal trainer. So are you currently training at all right now in any way?
I wish I did it more, and I wish I got there more. I train at the Worldwide Dojo in Bristol, Pennsylvania, where Cheeseburger runs. And it was formerly the Ring of Honor Dojo before they moved down to the Baltimore location before the unfortunate closure. Yeah. So it's only about 20 minutes from my house here, up 95. Great place to train. Cheeseburger's awesome. So I'll get in there and I'll do warm-ups and I'll do some drills and I'll do and what I can or what I need to do, honestly. Because I don't want to take time from those that are learning to be pro wrestlers and try to help where I can a little bit, but mainly then I'll referee the drills and then referee the practice matches. Life's tough, like busy. I wish I got there more. I usually get streaky. I can get there'll be a few months where I'm in there often and then life gets a little busier and vice versa, but I try to get there more. And then there's a lot of really great schools in the area. There's Catch Point here as well. And I'm trying to find some time. I think with the summer, I'll have a little bit more free time that I can get to more wrestling ring because I do want to train more and I do want to be around wrestling more. Just the real life responsibilities do get in the way sometimes, but it's always nice to be able to. And I think folks appreciate having a referee at training as well. So that's kind of where I am in actively training.
There's going to be a couple things I want to bring up from chat here. Querios and Melk asked, how did you get an opportunity to do commentating and interview work? I'm going to hold off on that one because we are going to get to that one here later. Okay. No, you know what? Let's hit that one now because that's in the same time period. I don't want to be jumping around too much.
Sure.
So, how did you get an opportunity to do commentary and interview work?
Honestly, I just think OTW was very small, and they, and I wanted to get involved, and it was what was needed. So where was the need? And it's just
Smart.
filling the need. Yeah. So I think at first commentary was to start off, and then it was like, let's try a little bit of the backstage because it was like the correspondent role. And then I think it was a ref was needed, and then you fill the need, and then that's how it happened. So yeah, I think that was kind of just how it was. That's how that opportunity arose.
Seems like the universal thing in wrestling is there's a need, you just fill that hole, and you rock with it.
Yeah.
You need ring crew. Guess what, man? You're on ring crew tonight, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of important roles that are a part of an independent show to step up and do, and like it's always good to learn the most you can about the business.
Yes.
So doing different things, even if it's once or twice, will help you in that way.
So Reed Cooper said, I first saw Jimmy Lloyd as Lloyd Jameson at Dojo Wars, and that was as a wrestler. And then the last question here, this is the one I want to know because I'm kind of curious about Perch. Adam Gault versus Perch. When are we going to get that Rumble?
I don't know.
Perch is trained.
Yes, yeah. Perch has had a match. I don't know. I don't know if I could bring myself.
You're both so nice.
To Perch, but I think it could draw. I just don't know if it. I don't know. I mean,
if you two had a small pushing match, you have to understand it's like everybody's two favorite cousins kind of locking heads for a minute. It would create a little controversy. Like if you counted 3 and then Perch had to come from the back and be like, no, that was a 2, man. That was a 2. Yeah. And then pushing match happens there. It can happen. Yeah. Also, if there's, like the clusterfuck, one could call someone out and the other could say, no, he was not out. Yeah. There's what, WWF,
if it does happen, it will be the right time for the right reason, but I don't anticipate it too soon. Yeah, but it would be fun. And if it were to happen, right reason, right time, because as much as we enjoy, it's nice to get some recognition. We still know, especially at a place like GCW, it's not about us. So like we said, correct. Right time, right place, and it could be fun.
So now we're going to start hitting these referee questions. I know a lot of people were waiting for these ones to hit. So the first one I'm going to ask you, have you seen any differences between being a referee in a Japanese or Mexican match versus an American match outside of language?
Not so much Japanese. I think Japanese is pretty, straightforward in that way. I think Lucha, sometimes you're a little more, a little more stay out of the way, and they're, because they're doing so much, and you have to be a little bit more lenient with the Lucha style. So I would say that I think Lucha style, you got to be a little more lenient, but Japanese, I would say it's very similar to to American style or whoever. And we have, our roster, our locker rooms filled with a lot of people from all over the world. So that helps us too. You kind of get used to it no matter what the situation is. So.
All right. So I should have maybe told you ahead of time about this one. It's up to you here, but the hardest match you've had to referee, or just in the most recent, the hardest to referee, and why?
The Art of War Games matches are the hardest to ref.
Okay.
They're very difficult. The Punjabi prison match was very difficult. Anywhere where you're confined to the space and there's more than 2 people and there's dangerous things like glass and other objects of destruction, especially with the war games being, and then we try to do such a good job of make sure we're getting the shards and the end pieces out of there.
Yeah.
And when you're limited to only the space in between the rings, and you're just trying to do your best to stay out of the way, and you pride yourself on being a good referee to stay out of the way. And those are the war games. I've had some close calls. Those are easily the hardest. And again, confined spaces and a lot of danger. Yeah, that would definitely be one. And then Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch from New Year's Day a couple years ago. That was a
Ooh.
tough. I think I was just that the crowd was so raucous. It was extremely hot. I just remember that being one of the more difficult ones, and I think I learned a ton from that match.
Hmm.
There's things I could have done much better in that match. Probably that people wouldn't have noticed, but I know and they knew, and I feel like I've grown a lot, especially as a deathmatch ref since that match. So that one sticks out as a difficult one, but one where I learned a lot and recognized like you can always get better. And then the hardest is the the war games.
So, what was another one of Brand's questions? Your biggest holy shit moment for you in ring? And it's okay to take your time because, again, these are you have thousands of matches to go through. So you can pass and come back to that later. It's perfectly fine.
Well, I wonder when he means that. Does it mean like I
It
can't
could
believe
have been.
that happened, or like taking
I
in?
I think taking in like Hammerstein, you know what I mean? Like just stepping out there, looking at the theater and going, "Oh, I'm here now."
Yeah,
You know, I think that's what he's shooting for is some moment like that, or maybe something gave you goosebumps in LA once a match finally went off perfect, or
yeah.
you know, you've
Well,
when you hit your marks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, anytime I worked with the Briscoes,
Hmm.
that was just the best. They were, Mark and Jay, like they're the best. And like when they got that run in GCW, and like I think when they wrestled Blake and Zane, when they wrestled SAT in the carousel room, those matches, like I came through the curtain. I think, and I'm very reserved because again, as a referee, you want to stay reserved. But I remember coming through the curtain. I think it was after the match with Blake and Zane versus the Briscoes, and I was like fired up,
Mm.
like let's go, like that was incredible. And I don't do that a lot. I don't, you know. So that was a big one. And like I mentioned earlier, like Ring of Honor had a big influence. Like so, the times I've gotten to work with Paul London or Alex Shelley or Chris Sabin or like Homicide, like anytime I get to work with those guys, it's like it's very humbling and very cool. Um, and then I think in terms of like in the ring, where I was just like, whoa, when Moxley was revealed and beat Cardona at Chicago for the title when he pulled the hood off and that crowd went wild. That was like to be in
Yeah.
there. That was wild. And then Tournament of Survival 6 in the opening match, Effie like starts hitting himself in the head with the chair to
Hmm.
show like I can take it. And the crowd just like that still was one of the loudest like reactions because that crowd was wild. So those are two like big like loud pops that I remember. And then some of those other moments. So gave a few answers there.
No, those are fantastic answers because you could just get one and move on, and I'd rather have the whole the whole thing from you. Uh, Reed Cooper again. Bryce Remsburg famously injured himself in Stan versus Man at Spring Break. Do you have a dumb story where something happened? Like, did you jump out of the ring and hurt your ankle a little? Anything like that?
No, it is funny. It is like the weird stuff that gets you. You
Yeah,
would think
yeah.
it's other things. No, I feel nothing. Knock on wood, nothing too much. Like most death matches, you get a little bit of cuts on your hands, like your fingers. Just it's bound to happen. But no, thankfully there hasn't been too much. I sometimes in my back, get a little tight, but like no, I'm trying to think if there's anything specific. Um, it's
I was
funny.
going to ask you about your wrist and hand going numb at any time. And then I was going to ask about elbow or shoulder injuries from the impacts. Just
No,
asking,
no,
you know what I
everything's
mean?
good. Yeah, no, it makes sense, especially because I do that wind up thing. But it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, it like more so what you'll be sore from is like walking like those long like the collective or long AC weekends. It's like being on your feet for so long on like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
unforgivable no give floor. Like stuff like that will get to you the next day, and then knowing that you did referee a lot of matches, but no, I've really been fortunate in that regard, to have not. Besides when besides when Josh Barnett broke my nose, that happened by accident. He didn't mean to break my nose. That was at Bloodsport in Tampa. Him and Moxley on the finish. Moxley was getting stopped out by Barnett, and as I was coming in to stop him, I was pressing him back and going to kind of cover Moxley, and I came up and I caught. He's still stomping away, and I caught a knee. And so
shit.
if you see that, if you see that match at the end of it, they're bleeding, and I am also bleeding, and then so that was my most famous. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that tonight. That was my most famous in-ring injury. Bloodsport, you're in the moment. Now I know whenever I've breaking things up for Bloodsport since then, and I've watched more Herb Dean, I've been like, you got to make sure, like, protect yourself before you go in for that.
Smart.
But that, I was fired up for that match. That was that's definitely the most famous one injury I've had, or most notable.
My question then is, how did you find GCW or vice versa?
Sure. So I was starting to get more, bookings in the area in like 2019. And I guess this is June. It's June of 24. So I think it's 5 years. This will be my 5-year anniversary with GCW this month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So it's a funny story. Essentially, I was aware of GCW because it, there was getting a lot of buzz. And so I was interested in possibly working there, but I didn't really know about how to go about it at the time. And no, essentially, I was the Voltage Lounge. There was a show Thursday night, June, summertime. I was getting ready to get a workout in at the gym. And the senior official at that time hit me up and was like, "Hey, are you available?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I ran home. I got home real quick, grabbed my stuff, went to the Voltage Lounge. Bryce wasn't done yet, but Bryce was with AEW now because it had just started. But he was on vacation, I think, that week, because he was still doing some indie bookings until they got full time that October. And then Ryan T was unavailable too that day because I think it was a Thursday. So stepped in, and that's sometimes how it goes. And then the rest is history. I always say it's an interesting show. It was Crushed Up from the Voltage Lounge in June of 2019. Alley Catch's first appearance in GCW, I believe. And it was Jordan Oliver's first main roster non-compound, I believe, match with GCW. Deppen and Gage was the main event. Like a classic, GCW style card. So it was kind of cool because there's some mainstays from that show. But that was the first, and then I did Backyard a couple weeks later. Then I did Homicide's tribute show, and then just kind of was invited back essentially, and then there we go.
Wow. So here goes into some interesting stuff. How nervous were you in front of the owner of a company who was previously a referee?
I wasn't too nervous. I really I think more so because I don't allow myself to especially, I mean, Brett and I probably didn't even have a conversation until a year. I don't know. Till I was, it was just what I needed to know. And I was, when you come in, I was just focusing on the job of being a referee. And when Brett had told me keep coming back. That was all I needed to know of all right, this is all. I'm like, thank you. And they're like, well, no, your talent's why you're back. You got the opportunity, but you easily couldn't have been, what you do with that is up to you and what you're able to present. So right from there, my nerves were settled from there. And then, it was, feeling good and always felt good at GCW.
Me too, man. Let me tell you, your story sounds a lot like Emil's story. I know you and him traveled together quite a bit there. His story was kind of the same. He's just chilling in the parking lot, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, guess what? You're it for tonight. You know, he's like, I'm in
Yep.
my street clothes. And that was a great story when we interviewed him. He went through that
Yep.
whole story, and it was just really nice. Frank Waldorf, one of our listeners here, welcome, by the way. When you look at it, he said 2019 was a fever dream of a run of shows. Geez. And I'd have to say 2019, 2020 was just hot as can be. And then unfortunately, COVID
Yep.
made us and GCW, all of us and GCW, take a step back. It was very humbling. Unfortunately, without that, who knows? But that again is just, that's speculation. Wrestle Dads, welcome. He said, I am here, and that's wonderful. It is nice. He's a great guy to talk to. So it's really nice. The Wrestle Dads podcast is really cool. He had me and Bran over there just a couple weeks ago and interviewed us, and really nice guy. His kids are really cool because, again, it says Wrestle Dads there. So his kids are on the podcast with him. They talk. It's so cool when he says, well, I love it when Moxley put the fork into the guy's, stuff like that. It's kind of cute to hear a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old say it. So, what year do you feel it was when you became confident in your job? 2020, 2021. Was there a point where that you're onto adrenaline instead of nervous?
Fortunately, I don't feel like I'm lucky I haven't gotten too like nervous in a long time. I'll get more like antsy. Like I just can't wait to get out there kind of thing. But I would say it is a really good question. I would say within the last like year and a half to 2 years, I've felt probably the last 2 years, I've felt very confident in a lot of ways. But that being said, there's always more. But yeah, there is a strong sense of you kind of have to have it at this level, and what we work with and what we do. I definitely have felt confident in my abilities as a referee for sure. Like I mentioned that match with like Cologne and Murdoch, like those type of matches that help you realize you still have a ways to go, and then recognizing when you get to a certain point. And then it's also the respect of your peers and the people that that would be like, please, like, and you still ask, like, hey, what could I do to do better? Anything there, and it's that's always big. So I'd say within the last 2 years has been good, but I can still get better. You never stop learning in this business. I can continue to learn, and one of my biggest focus right now, I think I finally I've struggled with it for a while, is focusing on my health and my body and like my presentation more. And that's what I'm really, I think that's the area of growth now too. So, so just there's always in like that, and and then also trying to be a better leader and manager and continue to foster a good team and make it a positive experience for those that we work with. And those are other skills too. But I'm going a little off the beaten path, but as a referee,
you're good.
As a referee in ring, I've felt, very confident these last couple of years, but that's not to say that there's always room for growth. But it is, again, it's good to be confident because it's an important job.
Yeah, a shitty referee can really fuck up a whole show, and that's the most I've cussed, but that's the truth if you've ever seen a fucked up count before. Wrestle Dads asked, is Adam EMT certified? So CPR, first aid, and what are the GCW requirements to referee, if any?
So I am CPR certified, first aid certified. Fortunately, there's loads of resources for one to get that. There's not a said requirement or requirements to be a GCW referee, but it's so with that, I think it's a matter of, and like I said earlier, there's a lot of really good referees on the independents right now. There's a lot of really good referees that I'm in contact with a lot. but I think a lot of it's fitting the mold of what we're doing right now, and with the travel and with being flexible and being adjusted, like being able to adjust and go with the flow and like be a good fit with the locker room. Those are sometimes on top, like you must be a good referee, top of the list. Those are the other intangibles that are really helpful, and making yourself useful in a lot of different situations. Like those are some of the other things. But to answer the question, there's no direct requirements, but it's obviously if you get an opportunity in GCW, you've earned it. You've probably worked your tail off in some other ways that it didn't involve refereeing, and you probably have at this point probably had a decent amount of experience in that kind of way. So, but we, the majority of us stay on top of it with our first aid and things of that nature. So it's good. It's good to have all of that. And then typically, there's people backstage, or depending on the state where we are in with what we have to have, we're prepared for all that. But things have been good.
Hell yeah. Have you ever given wrestlers advice on how to adjust their wrestling holds or other aspects to encourage any type of realism? Like, you need to kind of get around the neck a little more, and it's not going to hurt him, but it looks a lot better if you do. Or, like that armbar looks like shit if you could just tighten up on the wrist a little more, anything like that. If they ask, I don't know if anybody asks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, people ask, people will ask from time to time, but like if there's anything there, but I don't always give too much advice, just because I don't always feel comfortable, because I don't take bumps. I haven't had a match before. I know that's not necessarily, like doesn't mean my advice wouldn't be valuable or anything like that. But I'm not going to be quick to offer it unless it's asked.
Correct. Yeah.
Or if I'm friends with that, like closer with that talent, and I understand, and they would want me to say something, then I might, chime in and say some things here or there. But yeah, but for the most part, and sometimes you got to be careful when people do ask you for advice. Like if you don't know them that well, like you don't want to put your foot in your mouth, or you don't want to offend anybody. Yep. Like, especially as a referee, it's just sometimes better to be like, yeah, it was great. Everything was good. Was everything good on my end? Cool. And then,
right.
But yeah, I think, yeah. So I think, not to say I wouldn't be happy to help out more in a way, but just like anything, context, situational, it all matters.
But you're available if ever asked, and that's important.
Yeah. Try to be. Yeah.
I felt like I was jumping around, so I'm going to come back to the beginning of GCW and Brett for a moment here. Is there anything Brett has taught you about being a referee that you've been able to incorporate into your work? Sorry, I got you mid-drink, man. Lauderdale, LAU. I was going to try to kill time while you're taking that swig there.
No,
yeah, I was just wondering if there was anything he's really focused on. He says, I'd like it if you do this more, have Brett's you learned anything, Yeah.
Brett's pretty hands-off, and he trusts us really well, but there's two main things. One thing I was told for the longest time, and it was a fair criticism, and it shows of like getting better. Like I had a really good cadence on my count, but I just didn't hit that mat hard enough. And it was just like, because it was a smooth count, smooth cadence. It was like a flawless like cadence, but everyone's like, man, you got to hit that mat harder. And I struggled for a while with it for whatever reason. And Brett was really helpful with that. He's like, because Brett wouldn't say much. He hasn't said much. So, when he says something, you really
there's a problem. Yeah. If you don't hear anything, that's good news.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
Exactly. So he was instrumental in like making sure that, we're really hitting that mat hard. And then, to Brett's credit, he's done a lot of death matches. He's refereed probably way more than I ever have. And so there was some instances with that he was helpful with, of like during tube exchanges, I was being a little too over ambitious to try to get them out. And sometimes he's like, hey, it's just better to let it wait out a little bit so that you're not putting yourself in the line of danger. That was some big feedback. And that's important coming from me, so I could tell the others that as well. So that was some big feedback from him as well. So those are two major things that have been pretty instrumental. and again, he's not a micromanager, and he's, you know, I even recently thought I, made a mistake that wasn't really a big deal. And he was like, "Hey, listen, your percentage is pretty good, so don't beat yourself up about it," like that kind of thing. So it's good to be, supported that way. But those definitely were two major things that were helpful.
So have you studied his tapes before? You know what I mean? Like, you're a details guy. If you want to keep your job, you're like, you know what? He does this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not
Yeah,
kidding. Like, if you're trying to impress someone, the one thing you're going to do is you're going to want to look back at that tape and go, okay, he does this. He does this.
yeah.
I want to kind of make sure that I'm on the same wavelength as he is, as in the thought process. So I'm guessing you have seen a little bit, and
A
you
little
probably
bit.
watched him before with CZW.
Yeah, more than I wasn't like I wasn't following the indies enough until I started actually working them. So I wasn't always up to date on all of them. And honestly, I haven't watched enough of that work or his work to be honest. I've seen enough
We'll
clips.
erase this part then for you.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just being honest. But and it's really just a matter of time, I mean, everybody has time for
Yeah.
everything, but so I would, I try to keep up with current product stuff on top of other stuff. I wish I could be like MLJ,
Yeah,
but
and just
nobody
go,
can be
go,
like
go.
MLJ.
Dude's a machine.
Yeah, yes, yeah. He can watch all the wrestling all the time, and it's been wonderful. So, but yeah, no, I mean, but to your point, not to say that I mean, it's hard for me to watch a match at any time and not kind of just watch the referee the whole time, because
Right, right.
I'm always fascinated, and I'm always interested in seeing how other folks are doing the job, and it's always interesting, and just you can, like I said earlier, you can always be learning, and by watching that, and then getting influences from the past is important. So
100%. All right. I got to get into chat here because chat's rolling right now. Wrestle Dads asks, do you prefer singles matches? What is your favorite type of match to referee?
yeah, I think I probably would say I prefer a singles match. And I love like technical, hard hitting, you know, Ring of Honor style, that kind of match is probably like similar to an amateur style match. Like those are probably still my favorites. I do enjoy a high flying match too. Um, and but like those hard hitting, mat classics, that kind of stuff I really like. But then I will say, over these last few years with GCW, and like especially with like the Effie and Mance rivalry, the best match is the one the crowd cares about and has compelling characters and wrestlers that are over.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's going to be my favorite,
Storyline matters.
you know. So those, whatever it may be, like we talked earlier about those moments in the ring, right? Like I didn't mention that before Cage of Survival last week or 2 weekends ago, like I was a little like in my feels right before it started, because that crowd was so wild, and the video package and everything
Yes.
was building to that. And again, that doesn't always happen either, and you got to keep it together. But that was one where I was like, all right, it's a big deal here. So
Wow. The Bizzard said, "Sup, John? No Jericho tonight. You know what? There's 450 of us in here. We're getting ready to start hour 2. I'll just go ahead and mention he is on vacation right now, and he really deserves it. I'm not going to lie. So tonight, it's going to be me and Adam rolling around in here, but I always do feel like I'm missing my left leg without my co-host. So I'm not going to lie, it's always nerve wracking a little bit. You know what I mean? But I'm a talker. Adam's a talker. So the stress levels are way lower than I expected. I'm just being honest with you. So the Bizzard also said, I hope Adam isn't one of those refs who is built of tissue papers and down for 10 minutes after a time barely hit. Let me tell you, I think we were talking about this earlier, Bizzard. Adam has a hell of a wrestling background in him. So storyline, of course, but Adam can handle himself, definitely in his weight class. That's for damn sure. So That was a fun question, though. I do like that one. Only if booked that way, I can tell you right now, he would probably not be an easy one to get down. You want to talk shit real quick, Adam, before I move on to the next statement there at all?
Well, I'll just say Amanda's clothesline will take most people down for a little while.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So let's
Depending
see
on
what
what
we
it is.
else. We got Frank Waldorf again. Frank, thank you so much for being in. I love Frank. He said, hell, studying referee tape is a real thing. Bryce Mann versus Stan had a whole thesis written about it and the Greek chorus effect the ref and crowd have on a match. Is there anything you want to say about that? I know maybe Frank said everything there, but yeah, there has been things written about that and an incredible study. It's like the Yoshihiko situation there. You know, it's a one-man show damn near.
Yeah, no, I don't have much else to add. It's just that, like, kind of what I was just talking about earlier about the importance of studying. You know, we study, like, I think folks think wrestlers study tape of past wrestlers and or current what's going on, and that's no different for referees.
WrestleDad asks, do you have the ability to referee anywhere at this time, or are you strictly GCW?
Yeah, no, I'm an independent contractor for, I can go wherever I'd like on the independents. GCW schedule is so steady and a lot of travel. And then I do work, a shoot job, all throughout the week. So when I have weekends off, I'll admit I'm not always like, hey, let me see where else I could pick something up, just because it's nice to sometimes have a normal weekend and spend time with family and friends or just kind of recharge. But no, I ref with New Japan Pro Wrestling when they're in the area on the East Coast, which is awesome, and got to work with them in Dallas and Chicago, and they'll be back in Washington D.C. On August 30th, so check that out. And that's always awesome and really a pleasure. And then I've worked with MLW, not too much recently, but not just because the schedules haven't lined up with GCW. So to more so answer the question, GCW is kind of first pecking order for the most part, and then if other things arise, I'm always happy to do that. And there'll be some smaller things and other stuff like that. And so. Yeah, so if somebody's interested in booking me, feel free to, if we can make it work, happy to continue to, help where I can.
Dude, this is great. I love it. All right. So this is going to be more about your philosophy. Some wrestlers are brought in to perform as a tag team so the newer wrestlers can get a feel for the crowd timing and react accordingly. Jake the Snake Roberts cited his time as a referee as instrumental in learning how to read a crowd and match pacing. Do you feel some wrestlers should go through referee training, and would some possibly benefit from being a referee first?
Yeah, I think a lot of schools are still doing this, as far as I know, and I think 100%. It doesn't have to be long. Just have them do it a few times. I think it's a huge asset, and I think it understands the importance of a referee and then how much a referee can help. I know I did the Evolve seminar back in 2020. It was actually when I met Max Recon, the first time I met him, and they had D.A. Brewer, Dallas Irving, who's a NXT referee, great referee. If anybody ever wanted to watch film, a lot of folks on TV are very good. But he had a whole seminar, and it was fascinating to me to see how much the wrestlers were like, I never thought of that way. Or I was like, really? You didn't? And it's like, well, yeah, maybe they didn't. And but it's really, really important, because refs can be helpful for you, especially for when you're starting out and you're nervous and you're not sure how to put a match together. You're trying to remember things. Like, if you have a good referee, they can really help in a ton of ways. So being able to be in that role for a little bit. And then I also think it allows you to respect your referee a little bit more. Somebody's got to think, who's this guy? Just counts to three. Don't get in the way. But there are things, you get the right one and it's good. So to answer the question, it's definitely, I highly recommend and would say that I'd make that a requirement that all trainees would referee at some point. Now, obviously, if you're 6'5" and 250, it might have to be only at training. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It might have to be only at training that you would actually ref a match. But I think if anyone else is of, not that like crazy standout size, have them ref a few shows. I think that's a valuable lesson.
Yeah, could you imagine a 6'6", 6'7" Jake the Snake out there refereeing? Oh God, he would everybody would dwarf next to him. That's the opposite of what you would want in a referee, honestly. So I'm sure they did a couple and told him to get the hell out of that spot pretty quickly.
Yeah.
All right. My next question here. I strongly believe in consistency at every level of a wrestling production. This includes having a group of referees the talent's comfortable using. Having a senior referee to handle certain duties was a very important step in the right direction at GCW, I believe. And it's a nod to you that you can be trusted with handing over those reins. So is there a story behind when you first became the senior referee at GCW?
Not so much. I mean, I was already, before the last senior had left, I was already doing a lot to help in that way and help him. And then when that happened, it was just kind of like I went to Brett and I said, "Hey, what do you need me to do?" And it kind of went from there. And then for a while, I wasn't on the road fully. That was November of 21, and I didn't get out on the road really in like or until Brett started taking me more so on the road till the last thing was LA. My first LA show was February of 22. No, 23. So so it took a little while to get like all the Infinity Stones. Said like the UCC was the last Infinity Stone for me. And that being, I would handle the booking for referees even if I wasn't on the show in other cities before I was traveling. And then, Emil and I started hopping in the car a lot and making drives that were long, but they were doable. And we just kind of started to make it work. And I think especially before I took over as senior, when it was COVID, we were talking about that, like when we did the shows in Indianapolis outside at that park, that was the first time I really started to make some steady drives. And like we made the 10 to 11-hour drive out there. And I drove that. And that was kind of like was stepping up in that way and kind of cemented me as like a part of the team consistently. And then, then it came in with the next thing. So, and it's grown, right? It grows as GCW has grown. So have the roles and responsibilities and of being in that role. And I just keep trying to do the best I can with it. So
that runs us into our next question. Let's just pretend you're in LA. Can you run us through a typical show day for Adam Gault?
Sure. So LA's I like LA because there's a lot of help. So there's usually a good amount of help for us. But sometimes when we're on the road, more like in Columbus or Chicago Chicago, we have a lot of help too. We have a lot of help everywhere I go. Don't get me wrong. What I'm really saying here is that the seating that's done with the sticky notes, that I like LA and AC because we have people who know how to do that. And there is a little bit of an art to it, and I can't just give it to anybody who's helping in any city. So it's a little bit like, so basically it's, if we're going through LA, so we land, go grab the rental car, probably drive right to the UCC. Probably no, like if it's a day of, there's probably not time to really grab anything till we get there to eat. Deal with LA traffic. I love LA, but I don't love its traffic.
Same.
Get to the UCC, grab the seating arrangement, write out the sticky notes for the seating arrangement, put them out on the seats. Then it would be arrange for the helpers that are there, arrange for the helpers their posts. Do we have a bell ringer? Do we have security at all four corners? Do we have folks at the curtain? Do we have what we need for the matches? That's a lot of the stuff that would go into it. Then get the card, write up the card, do the match assignments, let folks know that the card is posted, what's going on, and then get to work. And make sure the referees have their mics, make sure the referees have what they need, make sure everything's good to go when doors open. So that's a lot of those type of things. The writing of the seating is a big part of it. Oh, and then helping make sure the wrestlers sign the posters. That's a big part of show day and getting that done. That's a referee job now on the road. So those are all like, yeah.
So hold on. So you're the one that has to wrangle all the wild beasts while they're over there going, let's come over and sign. Yeah. Oh, you poor bastard. Well, I know that's not an easy job right there.
No, it's not an easy job. So me or Perch, we're pretty hard to say no to, especially Perch. So like you said, we're both pretty nice guys. So it's kind of, come on over and, hey guys, can you just, sign this for me? And
please.
That's kind of a typical show day. It's busy. And then there's a lot of stuff in between, but like, I like that it's busy because I don't really like downtime. And then I would just be kind of, would be kind of like bored or antsy or like uneasy, and it's good that it keeps me busy because the day goes by quick. And I always say, like, you got to make yourself valuable. We talked about it earlier. Like, a good referee won't make you any money, but it won't lose you any money. So you make sure that you're staying valuable, because if someone's willing to bring you on the road, that's a big deal, especially as a referee. So don't take it for granted. And so I try to do the best job that I can to be, so that I remain valuable in that way. So.
All righty here. Another deep one. Can we talk in depth about your thought process in placing a referee in their appropriate matches for the night? And what variables are you looking at to weigh your decision?
It's a really good question. I do put a lot of thought into it. Sometimes I think I put too much thought in it, but then my peers usually let me know that they appreciate the thought that I put into it. A lot of times it's, and I do try to get their input, but sometimes it's easier just to go with your gut. And then our team is usually good with whatever, which is wonderful. And I would recommend, if any other referees or watch this or listening, like, never be that person who like says, I want this match. It's a lot cooler when you get awarded the main event rather than asking for it. It's just one of the things about advice of that.
Beautiful.
And then if the senior official, whoever assigns the matches, say, like, what match would you like? Like, you could say, oh, I would like to work with that person or this person, but there's a way to tactfully do that. So, but anyways, I digress. So just try to like play to the strengths of. And at this point, our ref team is so solid that I don't stress about like who's in there. So it's more so story of the match. Max Recon's tall. So if we're trying to have someone look big and menacing, we're probably going to have me or Perch do that match. So like, right. If there's too much physicality, if there's maybe physicality, it's better for one of us to do it. Then there's also talent input. Like, there's no real talent that says I must have this person. That's a regular GCW, again, because we've got a great crew, so I think they're comfortable with whoever. But maybe there might be a story they're trying to tell, or they think, hey, can I have this person tonight? And they understand that certain things work for difference of us. And like Danhausen and Mike Bailey, they had Perch, the cursed hand. That Perch is the referee for that match, and that was that was a Jim Mike Bailey call, which is perfect. There's certain things that make sense for that. For a while there, I had Nick Gage's matches through and through, but now I know he trusts and is fine with any of our crew, which is great. But I still know he has that level of comfort with me. Perch and Gringo Loco are tight. They came up with each other in the same area. Gringo loves working with me, Scarlett, whoever. but I know if it's a special match, it's probably cool to have Perch as the ref for that. Vice versa for me and like Jordan Oliver, like things like that, where as long as you're not sacrificing the quality of what you need to get across, you can do things like that. And then you also want to make sure folks get a chance to work with different people on that same way of like, if we have, we had Nick Nemeth in twice so far, right? I was fortunate to work with him the first time for Bloodsport. Perch had him. Next time I'll see what I can do with how the card breaks down to get someone else to work with them, and that goes for any of like name or maybe a person, or it doesn't even have to be a name, right? Like I've never refed a Dark Sheik match. I want to do that. Cool, you can have the Dark Sheik match tonight, something like that. Like you mix it up. And then what was the other point I was going to make? And then it's just a matter of like making it all make sense. So like I did Cage of Survival, just felt that like made sense. I wanted Perch to have Tournament of Survival finals. I had 2 of those under my belt. I don't need another one. Perch deserves it. So he got TOS finals this year. And
Wow.
Scarlett got the gauntlet. Scarlett got the gauntlet because Blake DDT'd Scarlett a year and a half ago, and she was I didn't want her feeling unsafe in a match with Blake, so she didn't get a title match, so she got to do the gauntlet, and I knew she was up for that challenge. So there's a lot that goes into it. So again, there's a lot of thought, and it's just a matter of bringing that down, and then obviously the pacing of the card too. Like I don't know a card until it's written like an hour or two before. So once I could have an idea in my head and then I see the card, I'm like, we got to rethink this a little bit. But fortunately, we have an awesome team. They're all capable. They're all wonderful. They're all up for the challenge. They've all worked incredibly hard to be in the opportunity. So, and I think our roster recognizes that and is comfortable with that, which is cool.
So this goes into just a little more personal, but it's about your selection process. Professionally, what is something that you admire about, say, Perch, Scarlett, Rico, and Max? What do you like about Perch that you would say, again, I want to be fair, every one of these referees happen to be some of the best referees you can ask for out there. Frank says the same thing. The entire referee corps is top notch at GCW. Perch, Scarlett match, even shiny shoes now, which I would have added in there, but I know that the rest of the crew are the ones that you've worked with primarily over the last year, 2, 3 years. So yeah, I know there's so many positive things that you can say, but what's maybe 1 or 2 main things that you could tell us as listeners about each one that maybe we don't see, but you do see?
Yeah, so I'll start with Perch. Like most people know, anyone that's spent a minute with Perch, he's the kindest, most genuine human being, and like he's the best. The thing I appreciate the most about Perch is positivity, as we know. I can get stressed, I can be uptight, and he'll, he never bats an eye. Here's a water, like in those intense situations, and everyone knows and I'm never like, it's never like angry or mad or anything like that. It's just I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I can be a very serious person, and he is like my yin to my yang in that way. Perfectly. And then the best thing about Perch is if I need something done, no matter what it is, I can ask Perch to do it, and I know it will be done correctly and well, and without like any question. Like he's great with that. He's very flexible, willing to do whatever, and is up for that. Scarlett is resilient. She I think it's again playing to our strengths. Like Perch is someone who's good to have nearby when we're getting ready for the show. Scarlett will drive anywhere, anytime to get like airport rides. Like she's big on like, hey, who do we need to get? I'll grab them. What do you need? I can get you something here.
Wow.
Like very, that's where her role in that strength is, and that's incredibly helpful. And and always kind of checking in with what we need, like the rest of the team, and what can be done. Recon has a heart of gold. He's a really like just a warm-hearted person, dedicated. He makes a lot of really long drives. He's not much of a flyer. I tell him he doesn't need to be here, be there. He's still always part of the team, but he commits to making some very long drives, and he's he's dealing with a lot right now with his body, but he's powering through because he wants to finish out strong and on his own terms, and I admire him for that, and so just happy for him. And then he is again, everybody fits so well in the locker room, and then Chad's great because Chad they're he's so easygoing, like so easygoing, and he's a great referee, and I love that Chad he if you talk to him, he believes in the philosophy of as a referee, you're not in this business to make money, yeah, make your money, don't get me wrong, but that's not don't take advantage of others, don't be be in it for the right reasons, and he does that quietly and respectfully, and so I appreciate that. And Chad's just real easygoing, and and with that, it's a good feeling. Everybody kind of evens each other out. So, and I'm incredibly proud of the team, all of them in their own ways. And then I love that having that team is makes life a lot easier, because it's not easy with what we do, and there's a lot that's asked of us, and we understand that's part of our role. So, and we all, we usually are the ones driving to the next town with 3 or 4 wrestlers in our cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're usually the ones making sure everybody's up, checking in the hotel room in our name, putting a lot out there. We do a lot. So I'm so appreciative of that, and their flexibility and adjustability. But those few things I would say about all of them.
I wouldn't say road dad, but it sounds like you're more of the responsible one, given the fact that everyone else is a little beat up and tired, because you're doing the same thing as the performers. I can tell you, as the wrestlers, you are a performer. But you're doing the same thing as the wrestlers. I can guarantee when these guys come to my house, they're living on naps. Yep. It is what it is. The minute a couch or a bed opens, they're like, I need to crash for a little bit. It never ceases to amaze me how much they rely on naps. They just don't have deep sleep. And if they do, they're sleeping through an injury, and they could sleep wrong and their hip is hurting the next day worse than it did the day before. And then they're not always sleeping very long anyway, because if something does hurt, you can't lay on it for very long. So yeah, the physical part that really wears them down, that's never talked about, is absolutely tremendous. And I'm 44. So what I see in them in their 20s and 30s, I'm like, gosh, guys, tougher than me by far. Mad respect. So this is a question here. Somebody asked earlier, do you have any favorite matches? I believe we did cover that one. I know we asked you about the hardest bump and whatnot. So then this second part here, it says, is there anywhere you want to see GCW go? Is there somewhere on your list you'd like to?
Denver was a big one, so us doing it this Friday is cool. Denver was definitely on the list. Hawaii ain't too shabby. So Salt Lake City's gonna be cool. Honestly, yeah, everywhere I'm thinking about, we're starting to hit. So I can't complain. I'm trying to think where else would be good for us.
I thought San Diego would be cool, because you're down there, the beautiful beaches. Cool. I think it's a little expensive to get a place down there, though.
Yeah, it'd always be cool to go to San Diego, no matter what, for wrestling or for whatever. San Diego is beautiful.
Is it the county? I'm just wondering, is it too expensive to find a place down there to work, or is it maybe the county's really rough on performers? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to go to the doctor. You have to get this test. You have to.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't. I'm really not sure. I think
I won't hold you to that one.
Just that we have such a good thing in LA with the UCC as our second home. I think too. It's like why we didn't run Philly for a while, because we had AC an hour and a half away, and that so but it's similarly PA has more rules than Jersey, but but I think we could see San Diego become a reality. But
Fingers
yeah,
crossed.
I would have said Denver. Denver definitely would have been up there. Excited to go back to Louisville. Well, not back GCW wise, but when we ran Jeffersonville, we flew out of Louisville, so we spent a little time there, which was cool. I'm excited to do Houston. I haven't done Houston yet. That'll be cool. So, but I'm just saying where we are going. Yeah, I mean everywhere, like Alaska, all 50 states. Let's make it happen.
Alaska was just brought up by Dezo there.
Yeah.
Let's see, where else was said on here? A good point by Reed, just for a moment. He said the main event isn't always the main event. More mature wrestling fans can definitely tell you. We saw a lot of that off and on in the past year, especially with Blake's reign. A lot of people were going, hey, why isn't he in the main event? And why isn't this? Sometimes the main event isn't always the main event. And and I think I talked about this on the podcast before, where I said I'd went over to Blake and I said, Blake, you should have been in the main event here. And he said, John, did you see what happened there, man? I didn't need to follow that. And it was a very humble, honest answer. So I figured I would share that. Also, great one here. He is a Patreon member, also in the Las Vegas area. He said, I think Brett has spoken on San Diego before. He said it boils down to not worth the trouble with UCC so close. And I believe you're right. And that's the same thing that Adam said there too. We have a bias. Boston. Maybe?
Boston would be cool. Boston would be cool.
Good fans too. I think.
Oh yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great to do. When we did Providence in Rhode Island, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I would love to do a little bit more New England. I don't want to have to drive through Connecticut. No offense to Connecticut, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'll go up to New
especially
England.
In the winter.
Yeah, just the Connecticut highways. I feel like it's a very populated state, but they didn't build the highways that way. But what do I know? So. But I would love, New England would be great. It'd be great to do more things in New England.
So we almost have 600 people in here, so I wanted to go ahead and do a little tidbit of history. We always like to give a little bit of information around here so that even fans who think they know everything will learn a little something. So I was looking up Adam Gault. I wanted to see a little bit of history on him as a referee. I always like to do my homework to make sure that when we open the show and when we do the questions, they're well-researched questions. Well, I found something interesting out, and I wanted to talk about that for a minute. There is a lady named Rosemary Gault, same as Adam Gault. She was a professional wrestling referee, but she was the first ever recorded woman referee from September 66 to August 1968. She quit when she got married. Her brother-in-law, Dave Finley Sr.'s involvement in promoting pro wrestling on the Irish wrestling scene is what got her interested. Rosemary then joined and was trained at a club in Belfast. Age 20 years old, under the name Kim Starr, she debuted in the role of referee. The first match Kim officiated was Dave Finley versus Whirlwind Monroe on September 29th, 1966 at the Queen's Hall in Newtownards, County Down. She continued to referee almost exclusively in Northern Ireland. Rosemary is also the aunt of Fit Finley, which should make her the great aunt then of Brogan Finley. So I'm just going to ask you here in front of everyone, by any chance, is Rosemary Gault maybe a family member that you know of?
Not that I know of, but I am extremely interested and fascinated now that it could be. Maybe I'm related to the Finleys somehow. I didn't know that distantly.
Whoa.
Which that'd be actually really, really cool. But it's funny because Rosemary Gault is my mom's name. So, and then also my aunt, married name, and then my aunt's has the same name too. But so that's just funny to me on a lot of levels. But I did not know any of that, so I appreciate that, John, and that's an interesting tidbit to take with me. So I'm excited to tell my mom about it too.
Oh yeah. So if you ever look her up, you can just put in first woman referee in history for pro wrestling. She'll come right up, and you can even just put in the last name Gault, and she'll pull right up there.
Yeah.
So it's not related, but my next question was living or dead, who's the one referee you'd love to sit down and talk with? And what would that conversation look like?
Oh, that's a really, really good one.
And please take your time because we could jump on to something easier and you could come back to that. It's perfectly fine. I hit him, guys. I hit him with the hard one. That's my fault, Adam.
No, no, that's okay. I mean, you know, it would. I got a chance to meet Charles Robinson uh, over WrestleMania weekend this past year, which was awesome. He was. Anytime you ever heard anything about him, he's the nicest human being, and that was so true. He was awesome, and I almost just from that conversation alone, and then who he is and what he's done, because I think I would enjoy his company so much, and also what he offers as like with his knowledge, he's he's definitely up there. And because I think he'd also just be a cool guy to talk about anything with. In addition to that, so I think Charles Robinson's a big one. Um, yeah, and then I always loved Jack Doan. I always thought he was good,
Yeah. Good
and
dude right there.
he has some influence on my style. Um, but I mean, Little Nate would be
Way more impressive than people take him for. His pacing is excellent. You know, he would hit
yeah,
the mat like towards the end of the match. He would bring up that energy and yeah. Oh, here we go. Reed Cooper says Tim White
yeah. No,
and
Timmy White would
Dezo,
be Brian Hildebrand. Yep,
Brian Hildebrand. Both great choices on that one.
Yeah, and Tim White. I'd love to hear his stories about taking care of Andre. I would love to because he was Andre's right hand man for a while, and I would love to hear more stories about that too, and then how that probably helped him in position to be as a referee and get more opportunities because it's part of like again what you do sometimes outside of the ring is more valuable or it allows you the more opportunities inside. So Brian Hildebrand's a good answer too.
Let's see here. We're going to go next to we're going into these multiple choice ones, but I think this one might have you digging a little deep too. So if you wrote a book, could you name 5 people, even 3 people, that would be listed as positive influences in your career or personal life?
So career or personal life?
Yeah, because I do feel that some of the people you've met along the way may have shaped you at one time or another, or may have pushed you when you had doubts, things like that.
Yeah,
And it doesn't
definitely.
have to be one personal; it could be all business.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think Brian Johnson was mentioned earlier. He would definitely would be a part of that. I think at this point, with what Brett's done, would make sense. Um, in the grand scheme of things, like because it's a whole other level what I'm in a position to do right now. So, and that's not happening if not for that opportunity. Um, and my aunt Megan, who was always mad that I always credit my cousins more than her for why I like wrestling because she was a big Hulkamaniac back in the day and liked all that stuff too. But both for personal reasons and just like a lot of different things, she's one of the most influential people in my life. Um, like without picking my mom, like and trying to think more of the wrestling side of things. But it's a
It's
good question.
important. And
Yeah,
no, it's very important. And if your mom is part of it, you have to understand you had to build a car from somewhere, and
yeah.
she may have been the wheels.
Oh, for sure. And no, I'm very close with. You probably could tell as I'm throughout this podcast, I'm very close with her, with my mom. So, um, but I think, yeah, no, yeah, my parents, and that would be my mom would definitely be a part of that. So, yeah, a lot of the people that are closest to me in the grand scheme of things. Um, so maybe it would be Brian, my mom, and my aunt, and then professionally, I feel like That's going to be a real good question in a few more years too, like with the Emil and the Perches of the world and Scarlet and
Mm-hmm.
the rest of my ref crew, because they, you know, we're a really tight crew. I think it shows, um, but it's very genuine and legit. Um, yeah. So
When I talk to all of you, everybody is on this even level, and it shows that everyone's happy to be there, happy to do what they're doing. Um, it comes across in conversation. I see it in the eyes. I see it in the smiles, and you could tell if it was otherwise. I'm
yeah,
pretty good at reading people, and I'm always looking for the smile, and you can always tell if it's really there or not. So next question here. The Bizzard says, did Adam meet Nick Khan when he was backstage at Bloodsport?
I didn't actually get a chance to meet him. No, he was right there in front of me, but I didn't. There were so many important people back there that I just stayed the course and let him do his thing. He was with his family. I didn't, so, but yeah, he was right there. I was right there as Brett got the photo with him. So it was really cool that he was there. It's really cool that there was a lot of those wrestlers that came to our show. I think it was kudos to Josh Barnett for putting on that kind of spectacle with us. Bloodsport special. It's a lot of fun. That was a special day. Yeah, it was good stuff. So very exciting to have all those folks there.
Wow. So I know we kind of covered this, but we didn't really get a specific before a match. When does that adrenaline hit you? Is it before the curtain? Is it when Emil is announcing the performer or the wrestlers?
It's hard because I'm pretty. I think it's once you kind of get out that curtain and then especially with GCW, feeling the people
Yeah.
and the crowd. That's when it's like, all right, and you just, you know, um, you know, yeah. I think that's what it is.
So on average, how long does the planning of one match take with 2 or 4 performers? Is it a situation where it's, hey man, Adam, just count 3 at the end versus Effie and Mance's cage match prep? What does it normally take on a given? And again, I know that's a very wide answer, like a very
Yeah.
yeah
Because with all the other things that I do at GCW, it's kind of hard to be listening in or completely tuned in to that whole process. And also, I typically know, depending on the talent, who needs or wants me to be that involved or needs to know. And then um, that's another another aspect of being a good referee is like not crowding your talent and being kind of like, hey, like what is it, and knowing who needs that, who doesn't, who wants that, who doesn't. Um, so it with GCW and doing so many other things, it really is a process. If it's another show and I'm only there to be a referee, I'm not only a referee, but I don't have as many other duties. I'll just make sure I'm around and I know what I need to know, and then I'll listen in, and that's and they'll let me know what I need to know. Fortunately work with a lot of work with professionals, every weekend, and again they know what being comfortable with all of us and where we need to know. So it's not a real extensive process these days, unless unless there's a lot more that needs to be, like, again, the level of the match, um, if the type of match it is. But even then, you'd be surprised how much we sometimes don't know. I
Hmm.
think. Um, and I don't mean that like, oh, we don't know anything. It's just you don't have to stress over it as much when you have the level of familiarity.
Yeah.
You're familiar with each other.
Do you have any performers that like to have you go in blind in a situation so that you can have a real reaction to it? Or have you had a situation?
No, I'm not really a fan of that as much as that. As much as
Gotcha.
it's nice to not know, it's like I'm saying, but no, more. It's good for us to know, because if we mess it up, and then it's like, well, what did you do? They're not going to want that. So usually there's always that heads up, which is better. Um, unless it's something that I don't have to be involved with, then that gets them more like, oh, I can't believe that's happening. So, and that's okay in that case.
So on to something really happy. What does the anticipation of 1,000 screaming and crazy LA fans feel like from inside the ring?
It's awesome. It's really a good feeling. It's fun. Makes it makes it
Adrenaline.
yeah. It makes it worthwhile. Yeah, but I would say word association fun.
So the next question here, listeners wanted to know, what are some common things that you hear in your earpiece during matches?
Just cues, and then you know what maybe if there's anything from really just cues and keeping people on time. But and then if Brett has anything to say, like usually it's just logistical after the match of like getting folks out of there and keep things moving and
Yeah.
let Emil know we have 30 seconds till this video package is done. So a lot of it's been helping with that production side of things too now. So that's mostly it. And then we can communicate with each other, the referees, which is good. So there's a lot of different things that come up with a show, whether it's we need to help somebody find their seat or God knows what. So it's nice now that we all are able to communicate with each other.
So while you're in the middle of the match, Perch can sit there and call you an asshole.
Yeah.
You can abuse each other. Oh, I love it.
There's some of that. Not in that case, but yeah, we have some fun at times.
In your case, because I know it is about time, how rarely are matches extended past their allotted times or shortened? Is it rare?
Yeah, it's not it's a guideline, it's a guideline just so that we can keep things in check. Okay.
The Bizzard with a heavy question. What movie does Adam like more, Talladega Nights or Step Brothers?
I haven't seen either in a while.
Yeah.
I remember I saw Step Brothers in theaters and I was like, this is so dumb. I don't even like get it. And then I saw it again and I was like, oh no, this is awesome. This is great. This is hilarious. Man, that's a good question though. I haven't seen Talladega in a long time, but that I know that's either, but that's a good hard hitting question. I'm gonna say what do I quote? What do I quote more? That's probably Step Brothers.
Step Brothers.
Yeah, so Step Brothers has the edge, but it'd be good to watch those back soon. Yeah.
All right. So picture this. Everyone's in the ring. They're waiting for Emil to finish announcing the competitors. The crowd is ready. You're sitting there patiently waiting for everything to get started. What's going through your mind at that time? Are you just ready for the damn thing to get started? You're like, I've ran all my checks mentally. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
Emil does his job. It's time for me to do mine.
Yeah. I think like you asked earlier about confidence and how you feel like being in your position.
Yeah.
I think at some point you get to the moment where you're like, it's my job. This is what I'm here to do. And just stay focused. Yeah. And just like, I'm just ready to get to work. And you're excited again, you're excited feeling the crowd, all that. That's good. But like, there's not a whole lot running through my mind other than like, let's just get to work.
Smart. Your voice. I'm assuming it's constantly strained because of work. Do you use anything to treat your throat or voice when you're doing those three-day weekends? Those rare 3-day weekends.
The 3-day weekends aren't too bad. It's the collective. I lost it like right away this year, and I was embarrassed. I was angry.
Yeah.
I was frustrated. I honestly don't think it was so much from refereeing as much as it was the amount I was talking to people, and there was always music playing, and I'm already a loud human being as it is, and I think I was just talking to so many people, and on top of straining it, and I've done a better job since then because I really was frustrated that happened. And again, you learn, you grow, you adjust. So I have been trying to be more conscious in the ring of using my diaphragm better and yelling, taking your time when I am using it. There was throat coat tea, which I know a lot of referees have recommended before. I was using a lot of that that weekend, and then we've started to include that for all of us. And then, yeah, fortunately, I'm pretty good on most weekends because there's that. But the collective, when there's so many shows in a row, and then I'm talking and instructing in between every show, it it was tough. But T, and then just you know try to keep it easy, take it easy when you're not, and don't talk too much. Some of that.
A listener asked, do you wear knee pads?
Yes.
Smart. I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
And you, of course, think every referee should, I'm sure.
Yeah, for a while I didn't, not on purpose or anything. I didn't early on because I didn't know any better. And then Bryce didn't either. Bryce, I know he didn't until I think he got to AEW, which is very crazy. But yeah, it's eventually I didn't think anything of it when I was 23, 4, 5, and then
right
now it's just smarter too. And then it also gives you another sense of comfort out there, like just that you're protected and moving around. But yeah. We all, yeah, referees wear knee pads for the most part.
Yeah, knees in the glass, knees in thumbtacks probably don't feel as well when you're trying to get down there.
No.
Yeah. So let's take apart your duties that you do on the side outside of the ring. Inside the ring, how much of your job do you feel is physical versus mental? Because you're constantly thinking of angles. You're thinking of I'm guessing you're thinking of the hard cam. You're thinking of,
you're thinking of everything, but positioning and then your body muscle memory. I would say it's like 50-50, like it works together, right? Like, because if you can't physically move around as well, that's going to hinder you. But the brain has to let the body know what it's doing in that way. So that's a really good question. I'd say it's like right down the middle, like, and they both have to feed each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a secondary question written here, but you ended up answering it. I basically I've noticed Perch constantly fights at shows to get tag teams in their appropriate corners. How often does the ref have to think about hard cam or roaming cams? But it sounds like you pretty much answered that one. I was going to ask you about road trip buddies, but I primarily know, and I think you mentioned it a couple of times, Emil seems to be your primary road buddy. Who sleeps the most between you two?
Oh, between the two of us? Oh, it's easily Emil. But that's okay with me because I like driving. I like driving. I like being in control, especially if it's my car. I just also, like I mentioned earlier, like I get bored or antsy if I'm not doing something. I'd rather just drive, and I get car sick. So like, I just like driving, and I'm not like one of those people that's like you must stay awake. Like obviously, if we're driving late at night, I'd be happy to have someone up. But if it's like, I just like, let's say when we do the Detroit drive, like we'll leave at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I have had slept in my own bed for about at least 7 to 8 hours. Emma will get here probably after working and only sleeping a little bit. And I'll say like, go to like, he'll be in the passenger seat, sleep. I'm going to listen to my podcasts. I'm going to listen to my music and I'm good. And I'm okay with that. So, but yeah, Emma's definitely sleeps more in that regard than I need my sleep once I get to the hotel. I'm I let everyone, the rest of the team know, like, if I don't get at least 6 or 5, like it's not going to be a fun time. So like, I won't be very good at what I'm doing. So I'm always like, all right, let me get some sleep. And then, so that's what I would say.
So we have Frank again asking here, or at least talking. Geez, it's a comment. Adam in long sleeves and knee pads. Shit's about to hit the fan. I was talking about, I think it was COS. I saw you even with goggles on and gloves, and I went, oh shit, it's about to hit the fan in this match. So, you're very smart about making sure you're covered now, where I feel like 2 years ago, not so much.
4 years ago, even worse. I was not protecting myself. Yeah, I just think I know there's probably opinions on like they're bumping, they're doing this. I said, but we're the referees and we need to put over the danger they're putting themselves in because it is dangerous and is legit. And I don't want cuts on me. I don't want to put myself in that. I have I have too much. There's things to lose, and it's just smarter. And I think it's just the way to go to be safer in it, and I think it puts over the performers and what they're putting themselves through. And yeah, I think so it's just a matter of being safe. And we after Scarlett and Perch did the first tour of Japan, they had the shell. We had the shells before. Ryan T actually wore the shells before. When I say the shells, the knee pads on top of the pants, the hard ones.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan wore them years ago. Ryan, great referee, but then we weren't using them for a while. And then when Scarlett and Perch went to Japan, they came out, they're like, we should be doing that. And I said, yeah. And then this, that, and the other thing, and then I think the goggles are a smart move just because glass is very unpredictable. So yeah, it's you got to protect yourself.
Favorite venue?
Favorite venue. This comes up a lot. We were all talking about this not too long ago. It's hard. It's a really hard decision. Like I love the UCC, but the UCC also means I'm going to have probably a very busy, stressful night if the crowd's a little too wild.
Yeah, we don't know how to count beers in LA. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I love the Carousel Room. R.I.P. I like the Terminal too. I the Terminal is more our vibe, but I just the Carousel Room has a lot of like sentimental value to me. I will say White Eagle Hall in Jersey City is a sick venue. It's a very cool venue.
Yeah.
Very, very cool venue for wrestling where the J Cup is and where we had World on Lucha. Yeah, it's tough.
Detroit. I know Perch likes Detroit.
Yeah, Perch likes Harpo's. I get why people like Harpo's, but Harpo's is it can be rough. Like
too old for you is what my feeling is.
No. Old's cool. Like Talia Hall is really old, but Talia Hall has air conditioning and heating and plumbing that works well. And so Harpo's is great because it's gritty and it looks like. Don't get me wrong, I get why, but Talia Hall's a good one in Chicago. I'm copping out here. I'm just saying all of them, but I think I'd have to, Carousel Room originally was big, and then, try to. Excuse me.
No, you're good, dude. This is late. You're doing fantastic.
Yeah.
A listener asked. I'll move through because I see where you're going with it. A listener asked, on the independent scene, are referees paid by match or by show?
By show.
Okay. And if it's by show, is there a general assumption you could be working 1 or even 6 matches that night?
Yeah. So, and that's where it goes of like, obviously GCW, we kind of understand the expectations, but if you're negotiating with someone and it's like how many other referees and whatever, you may want to be privy to that knowledge before you negotiate your rate.
Right. And a standard night for a referee, 3 to 4 matches is fair, you would say?
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah. Depending on, I wouldn't say 4. That's usually if maybe we have like a 10, 11 and someone's got to get the 4. I'd say for us, for a GCW typical, it's minimum of 2 and most likely 3.
Wow. Professor Xavier Hashi, Adam, after being part of the critically acclaimed Visitors Project, what are your thoughts on the creative opportunities in wrestling for people who aren't wrestlers? The internet has made a lot possible.
Awesome question. I actually got to say a few words at the Visitors panel thing we did at the end of April. And what I was saying was, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I think it's, I love that Perch has been taking on photography now and getting involved with that. The videographers, photographers, you name it. I love that they're taking interest in what we're doing or that's what they're interested in, that they're utilizing their talents to document what we're doing. I said this because life moves really quick. Like we move at a rapid pace with GCW. My life in between shows is pretty steady. It goes quickly, right? And if it wasn't for these photographers, videographers, what Nick Karp was able to do with that, I had visitors. I got to show some of my friends that book. It's the most I reflected on my trip with Japan. It was the most I was able to tell my friends what I did and who these people are and like what's going on. I'm so grateful. I think we're grateful for that. Like, Earl and Chris and Mouse, and I can go on and on. I'm going to miss people, but I'm so appreciative of it because, in 5 years, in 1 year, in 2 years, in 10 years, to look back and be able to know that that's all there living somewhere,
Yes.
is very appreciative and very cool. And I love that I think to answer more of the question too, like the creative opportunities that it's presenting for the artist, and then also gets more eyes on pro wrestling or GCW or whatever's going on. Like, cool, awesome, let's do it. So it's great.
Incredible. Let me see here if I have a couple, because again, we're at the 2-hour mark here now, and I know you're getting tired. All righty, so we'll do that here.
But
Let me
no
see
rush. Like if we get to the 2 hour, that works.
Let's see here if I have anything decent. Perfect question. Adam, there are plenty of jobs outside of the ring where someone may want to get involved without being a wrestler. To the future referees, managers, announcers, and commentary of this business. Now, I'm not even including multimedia production, but for those people, could you give them some words of encouragement, and what do you feel should be their first steps towards becoming a future ref, manager, announcer, commentary?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think first and foremost, go to a reputable school. It's not rocket science. Get to a reputable school, one that you maybe talk to some other people that have gone through that school or know it well, and just get started and say if you're not in, and then it's still good to do some training. It's still good to do basic training, especially especially if you want to be a referee, because that will help you tremendously and give you a basis that will help you as a referee. If you're more interested in commentary, ring announcing, whatever it may be, it still may be good to do all that, especially if you're physically capable of doing it. I'd probably still recommend it, or whatever the school is going to tell you to do. And if it's a reputable school, they'll guide you the right way. But yeah, just get involved and go out and do it, and just be willing to learn about every aspect of the business the most that you can. Respect your history, be respectful, and go in with an open mind and be willing to learn, and then just work your tail off. I will say this piece of advice that's specific to me, and I think for support roles. So folks that aren't going to be, well, this really could go for pro wrestlers as well, but at least pro wrestlers can sell merch, and as they grow up, like they can build on that more. But I have found that having a steady full-time job has allowed this to be a lot more fun than anything else, because it's never had to pay my bills. And I'm not saying everyone should have to go that route, because it's also very tiring and like it's not the easiest thing to do. But if you are trying to be a ref or a commentator or an interviewer or whatever it may be, at some point you're going to have to, invest in yourself and reach for the dream. Don't let it be a distraction from what you're going for. But in a day and age where there's remote jobs, where there's things like, find something that you don't absolutely detest and hate, and have that be like your full-time gig, and then it can work for wrestling. I feel like that keeps wrestling fun, and you get to the ability to invest in yourself a little bit more, which you shouldn't do forever, but sometimes you need to. It allows you to, I think it can stay fun, and then it can be, and then that way the more opportunities will come, because you know that you're doing this because you want to, not because you loved wrestling and now it's the thing you do because you need to. So that's just, I feel like that's been a big help for me in my journey. So I just figured I'd share it.
And you have thought about being a trainer possibly more down the road as you get older?
Yeah, I think I would love to help more. Yeah, I think I would like to do more TV at some point, to really say I was a full, well-rounded trainer, like getting more TV reps, or that would be I feel like the best way. But I'd be happy to help. Yeah, I don't know if I'm comfortable, taking money to train anybody. I don't know if I ever would, but I, not to say like, but I would be happy to help and train. And then and I do talk to a lot of referees, and we'll watch matches, and I'll provide feedback, and I'm happy to do that when I can. It's just finding the time, but like, I love doing that. It's very fun. It kind of reminds me, I get fired up in a good way about it too. Like, I'll be like, like, cause you're like, I'm going to watch this match, and you might be like, I don't know how much I want to do this. And then I'll be talking with them and going over stuff, and then I'm like, I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to teach and to help, and it's and I'm happy to do it. So, but I also got to keep learning too. So, it helps me in that way as well. And then I've had folks who have done it for me, and hopefully will continue to do it for me, because again, we always got to keep getting better.
It's well put. We did all the wrestling questions. I'm going to do some good old fashioned spitfire personal fun. You can say yes, you can say no, but we're going to fire through them so that you get to bed before daybreak. All right. So here we go. Do you have any pets?
Not currently, unfortunately. I love dogs. I'm a big dog person. I rescued a 12-year-old pit mix during COVID.
Wow.
Petey, whose owner had passed away. And I rescued him and got two more good years out of his life. They weren't sure if he'd last a few more months, but we got 2 good years out of him.
Wow.
And then I grew up with labs in my family, so I love dogs. Unfortunately, with living alone, and
not easy,
and traveling, I'm not in a position to have one right now, which is tough. There's a lot of times I want to take one in, but it's just not in the cards right now.
Let's get back to something happy, man. Go ahead and say it out loud. Say it out loud. Your favorite sport and your favorite sports team, my friend.
The Philadelphia Phillies baseball.
Did you see the Phillies fan that had a shirt over at the London game that said
the British blew a 13 colony lead?
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was so awesome. So for Adam, what are some simple things that make every day better for you?
That I have a job that I enjoy, that I enjoy the people I work with, my home. I know it sounds very like, okay, put in perspective, but like,
oh no, I'm older now. I get the importance of they're very important.
Yeah, and then I think having a job that offers me the flexibility to travel and live my dream with GCW, and then I'm just grateful for my friends. I have a lot of really great people in my life from a lot of different areas of it. So,
all right, for our next one, your favorite fast food.
Very passionate about food.
Perfect. This is the time.
Oh, it's so hard to say like what the favorite is.
Take your time. What about a burger place? Who's your burger place?
Well, so Emil would have chimed in already. I love when we go on the road. I love Culver's because we don't have Culver's around me on the East Coast, and Culver's I love Culver's. I think that's great. I can't, just like we were talking about venues, I don't know if I can pick just like one.
Yeah.
I think I say what you will about McDonald's. I still think like you can't go wrong with sometimes just getting a Big Mac. But I would say, I love burgers, but I think, Culver's is up there. And we'll go with that. We'll go with Culver's.
Frank.
Let's see, Frank.
Love you, Frank.
4. Come on now.
Phillies fans are still trying to get the $1 hot dog days back.
Still trying to get it. But we have the BOGO nights right now. but I'm going a couple
Nice.
times next week. I'm excited. I think I'm actually going 3 times next week, which might be a problem, but I'm excited. So,
So you're a food guy. What's your favorite family recipe, and who makes it?
my mom will make uh, pot roast with mashed potatoes and like some kind of green, which is great. But mashed potatoes with the pot roast is great, and it's like typical Irish meal, like beef of the day.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm English, Irish, and Scottish pretty much. So yeah, I grew up on the same stews and yeah.
yeah.
All right, into childhood. What video game did you dominate on, or video games?
I was a Nintendo guy through and through. So Super Mario 64.
Oh
I
yeah.
was just thinking about it today. I'm not much of a gamer these days, or have been for a long time. Part of me wishes I did, because I feel like they're a good stress reliever. But
They are. They
yeah,
are
yeah.
100%.
But
Just
Super Mario 64.
dude, get one of the Nintendo Switches that they have out now. A lot of those are backwards compatible, dude. You can get a lot of your old games without dealing with all the clunky hardware.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it.
All right. What music were you listening to as a child? What'd you like listening to?
I mean, all the stuff that the WWF had their video packages to, like Creed.
Gotcha.
Loved Creed. I'm going to see Creed with our merch guy Dave in August. I'm excited. Yeah, Creed was like my favorite band growing up, and then that kind of alternative rock was that
Hell
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite cereal?
Honey Bunches of Oats.
Good call.
That
Favorite
gets
cartoon?
most people boo me after that answer, so I
Nah,
appreciate
man.
it.
Oh man, I've heard some interesting choices. Alec has some very like Quaker something. Like it was a very interesting, yeah. Favorite toy?
Toy growing up. I just loved my action figures. So whether it was wrestling,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, or Batman, action figures were where it's at.
Favorite cartoon?
The animated Batman, the animated series.
I was going to talk to you the minute you mentioned that earlier in the show, because that's actually one of my favorite. Like the atmosphere in that cartoon is fantastic.
And funny story is I turned Perch onto it because Perch will stay here with me a lot of times when he's on the East Coast for the shows. And I guess it was last year, maybe over a year ago, I was like, Perch, you need to watch, like, I know it's a cartoon, but trust me. And then he's now like watched it through a few
Yes.
times, and yeah.
All right. Last one on the childhood. Do you have a celebrity crush when you were a kid?
Posh Spice, Victoria
Good.
Beckham.
Posh, really?
Yeah.
I think I liked the redheaded girl and
Ginger.
Ginger and dude. I'm a
Yeah.
big boy. I like the bigger girls. You know what I mean?
Hey, I was in second grade and I just knew she was the
Just
one.
knew.
Yeah.
Hey, that's hard to argue. Yeah, the Spice Girls were rocking during their time, so
They were.
they knew what was up. I don't know. Let's see here. In your travels, have you fell in love with any area of the country or world that you may want to live elsewhere?
That's an awesome question. I think about it often. Japan's amazing. I can't wait to go back. I hope to go for a longer time. I really love Chicago. Um, the Midwest itself is okay. No offense to the Midwesterners. It's just but the city of Chicago, I love. I could live there. I feel like, I know everyone says, what about the winters? But I think I could live there. So Chicago is really, and I feel like it's very similar to Philly in a lot of ways. It's a more modern city because it's not as old as Philly, but it has
Yeah.
great food. It has great food. It has passionate sports fans. I think it lines up a lot of that similar way. But I think it would be a fun place for me. Sometimes I've thought of LA, but I think LA is just a place I like to be temporarily.
Yeah.
So I'd go Chicago, and then yeah, we'll go with that for now. And then part of me, it's hard because Philly's, I love Philly. I'm very like rep it hard, and my family's here. But I think the more I travel, what I do think is, okay, maybe I won't live here, but if it's not wrestling, I need to keep traveling because there's just so much to see and I really enjoy it. like all the traveling I've been doing has made me want to do other travel, non-wrestling travel too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Good. What shows are you binging right now? Anything on Netflix, YouTube, anything there that you're kind of like? For me, I like to watch people take mud and build houses, or I like to watch a guy go camping, and I just, like simple shit.
Yeah, no, I do find myself watching more YouTube than anything, and I'm like, why do I pay for these other services when
Yep.
I'm just watching YouTube videos? I go off and on. Like sometimes I don't have a ton of time between work and like other stuff like that. I don't always have a lot of time to watch or binge a good show, but I did just finish Fallout. That was good. I enjoyed that. I didn't play the video games or anything, but I was trying to like make sure I see at least one show that was topical and people were enjoying. So Fallout was on there. And then that's the most recent one. So we'll go off that. But Mad Men is my favorite TV show of all time.
No, good choice.
Yeah.
What would be your next language of choice that you would like to learn?
Japanese.
Japanese. Good call. Your favorite movie genre?
Thrillers.
Do you have one or two thrillers off the top of your head there you could give us as an example that you like?
Prisoners is a really good movie. That I'll go with that. And then it's funny, I started trying to watch more movies in the last few years because again, committing to a show is sometimes hard.
Yeah.
Watching a movie a little easier. And I've noticed that the thrillers are the ones I typically enjoy the most, but I still have a lot more that I need to do, a lot more work to do. And then these three back here, especially the one in the middle, The Dark Knight, I mean, it goes without saying. So
What's the worst shoot job you've had?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins. Yeah.
Do you feel you're always on time, early, or running late?
I'm early to the ask Emil how annoying I am to be early. So.
Dude, you got a hold of me early, and I'm an early guy, and I'm like, this is awesome. You have no idea how much stress that takes off of another person when you show the fuck up earlier on time. So that's highly appreciated. I only have a few more questions here for you. What would the young you think is the coolest about the old you now, or the current you now? You're not old.
Thank you. Because I, sometimes I certainly feel old these days.
Yeah.
He would
right
think
around 30 is when it starts.
Yep. Yeah. He would think it's really cool that I've worked with Paul London. And Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin and Homicide and
all the heroes.
He'd be real, and the Briscoes. He'd be real stoked about all of that. He'd actually be pissed that he's not wrestling them. But then when
I get that
more of the context, he'd be like, okay, I get that. Good for you.
So if you could master one non-wrestling skill, what would it be? I made you spread the wings on that one.
Yeah. It's like, do I want to do this?
I mean, is there just something that, do you like to make pottery? Do you always want to go rappelling off a cliff? Do you just want to visit Paris? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that helps. Yeah. I do. I've always wanted to I was a big drawer and I had a big imagination growing up as a kid. So if I had the time, money, whatever, could do whatever, I'd love to make my own comic books or artwork.
Perfect.
And I don't devote any time to that now, even though I tried a little bit last year, but it's so tough. But that's definitely it.
3 questions left, brother. Any superstitions whatsoever for you, either in personal or going out on that stage?
No, not really. No, kind of down for whatever.
All right. Second to last question. Do you have any ghost stories or spooky stories that you would like to share that had happened over the years to you or your friends?
No. I definitely feel like I did back in the day, but I would I can't legitimately think of something right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to
All
disappoint.
right. No, dude, this is awesome. Last question, and this is up to you if you have something close or not. I like to do show and tell. If you have anything near you that you think is kind of cool, that's totally Adam, and you would like to show it to us and tell us about it, it's up to you. If you have something, fine. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too.
So obviously the poster behind it. This is my my office, for lack of a better term. This is a World Series, well, 2008 World Series ball. I don't think a ball from that game, but it's that signed by Cole Hamels with the signature right now. But Cole Hamels is my favorite Philly. He's retiring officially as a Philly next Friday, and I'm going. I'm very excited.
Wow.
I lucked out. There was no GCW that weekend. So his bobblehead's up there, and then his stat card, and then there's a so that's a pretty good one. There's a lot of stuff here I can show you, but yeah.
No, it's okay. You have time if you want to. I know it's getting late. I was trying to see here. Are you going to maybe try to get his signature on something else this time?
I don't know. Probably. I don't think there'll be a chance to. And being 34, I think I'll just enjoy from afar. Yeah. It was different when I was 16.
Yeah.
So even then it was it's a little old, but I wasn't a big sports fan until my teenage years. So I was making up for lost time. But I'm excited for that. Very much looking forward to that next week.
Well, that was all the questions. Well, the Bizzard has one last question. Are you a Disney parks guy?
I am not. Nothing against Disney. I like Disney. I've only gone to Disney World once in the year 2000. I still think it was the best family vacation we ever had. It was the Millennium Celebration. I have not been back. I would like to go back. I'd like to go to Universal as well because I wasn't really a rides kid when I went last time, but now I do rides. So I'd totally be down. I just time and money.
Absolutely.
So nothing against Disney parks, but it just hasn't been something I've been able to do.
You ain't rich yet, you know. Hey, it is expensive. we have Disneyland out here, and it's expensive, man. Really, I almost had to sever off one of my legs just to get into the place. It's just. Anyway, if anybody ever goes to Disneyland, hit me up because I actually know how to do it without spending a ton of money now. And I had to do it like 6-7 trips just to figure it out. So, we did everything. I'm going to just do the upcoming shows and matches, and then I'll bounce us out of here. Is that okay, Adam?
Sounds good.
Sweet, man. All right. So, just stick with me. We'll go off the air after that, and then I'll just say goodbye to you. So here are our upcoming shows for this weekend. Friday, June 14th, GCW Lights Out from the Quarry in Golden, Colorado. We have an announcement for Joey Janela and Billy Starks. They will be there. They don't have matches announced just yet. We have Bussy versus Fuego del Stack. That's Fuego del Sol and Sam Stackhouse. Zilla Fatu versus Cole Radrick. Danhausen versus Broski Jimmy. Ali Catch versus Man Like DeReese. Nick Gage versus Oren Veit. And our main event, hopefully, should be the GCW World Championship. Mance Warner versus Jordan Oliver. Saturday, June 15th, GCW hit him up from the Ukrainian Cultural Center in Los Angeles, California. Announced as Gage and Zilla. No matches just yet. Thrissy versus Garbage Daddies. Megan Bain versus Sandra Moon. Los Macisos versus the Stoner Bros. Jack Cartwheel versus Sydney. Oh, I wish I knew the name off the top of my head. That's so unprofessional. Viva Van versus Man Like DeReese. Danhausen versus Kylie Ray. Jordan Oliver versus Broski Jimmy. And for our GCW World Championship, Mance Warner versus Joey Janela. Adam, do you know who that name is off the top of your head? It's Sydney. Damn, guys. One of the fans will know it too. We'll have to figure that out.
He was Scripps.
That's it, Scripps.
Yep.
All right,
he was
cool.
Scripps in WWE, and then and his name, the main roster names escaped me too now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him do his thing.
On to our last show of the weekend. This is Sunday, June 16. GCW's I Can't Feel My Face from the Nile Theater in Mesa, Arizona. We have Masha Slamovich versus Kylie Ray, Nick Gage versus Fuego del Sol, Billy Starks versus Brittany Brooks, Zilla Fatu versus One Called Manders, Man Like Derice versus Jack Cartwheel, Joey Janela versus Broski Jimmy, Los Macizos versus Thursey. This is a loaded card. Young Dumb Garbage Daddy versus Brick Shithouse. That's Jordan Cruz, Rob Shit, and Sam Stackhouse. Mance Warner is announced for this show. No match as of yet. All these shows are available to watch live on Triller TV. So, Adam, we did it, man. Listeners, I do want to say co-host Brant will be back next week. Thank you to everyone who listens. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here, Adam?
No, I just want to, thank everyone who tuned in tonight. I hope it was enjoyable. Feel free if you're at a GCW show. I am moving around a lot. But please come say hi or say hello. Always encourage that. Even if I look like I'm in the zone or whatever, I'm always happy for someone to say hi and chat for a little bit while I can. And just really appreciative that we had a lot of people watching tonight, which is pretty cool and humbling. And really appreciate all the support that you give to GCW and to independent wrestling. And if you want to follow me, I'm at Ref Adam Gault on Instagram and at Ref Adam Gault on X. And I'm not too exciting on X, I'll be honest. I just retweet GCW stuff. But Instagram, I'm pretty active on Instagram. And so thank you, John, for having me. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. And I hope you enjoyed it.
Hell yeah. This was a beautiful night that we all shared together. It's literally 1:22 a.m. on the East Coast. We have 730 listeners live right now. So to all of you, thank you so much for listening. And I'm going to close out the night like Brant and I always would. I just want to say, long live GCW. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you all have a fantastic night.